The New York Rangers are definitely a team that do not have a phenomenal prospect pool currently, but the good news is the Rangers are definitely going to have an opportunity potentially this offseason to add to it in a pretty big way, as of course the team does have 2 first-round picks in this upcoming 2026 NHL draft that will happen, of course, this upcoming summer. And the Rangers have those 2 first-round picks, one being their own, of course, but the other being acquired in the deal involving Keandre Miller being signed and traded over to the Carolina Hurricanes, where they sent back a first and second round pick, both in the 2026 draft, plus, of course, Scott Morrow, who has been playing pretty good for the Rangers, especially as of late with Adam Fox out. But, of course, the main part being here, they got back a first round pick in that trade, which is top 10 protected, but it will become the better of the Carolina Hurricanes' own draft pick and the Dallas Stars first rounder. So, of course, the Carolina Hurricanes ended up making that Mikko Rantanen trade after they initially got him, trading away Martin Necas and that kind of package over to Colorado. They got Mikko last season. They ended up having to trade him away again, of course, because they couldn't come to an agreement on an extension. So, basically, we ended up getting a first round pick that is top 10 protected and will become the better of Dallas or Carolina's. And, of course, there is a very, very good chance that we are not going to see either of those picks end up in the top 10, so we don't really have to worry about that too much, as both of these teams currently are right near the top of their specific divisions, and it definitely seems like both will likely finish at least in the top 3 of their respective divisions. So I figured in today's video, since it is, of course, coming up closer to the kind of World Juniors, and you're going to start to hear and kind of see lots of kind of draft talk around certain prospects, I figured it would be an interesting idea to kind of take a look at where the New York Rangers' 2 first-round picks might end up kind of finishing. We'll talk about some possible kind of scenarios and where these draft picks might end up being for the Rangers, and ultimately, we're going to take a look at some prospects around those kind of areas to see which guys the Rangers could possibly end up looking to target, and just kind of see which guys might end up being some good fits for this Rangers team, possibly if they end up deciding to keep these first rounders, because of course there is the possibility where they end up trading away both, or they end up trading away one or none before the actual draft. They've got lots of time before the upcoming trade deadline in March, and of course they've got lots of time before the draft in the summer as well. They'll have time in the offseason, so there is going to be some options there. They could keep the picks, they could trade them away, but ultimately, we're going to take a look at some prospects in today's video. So let's just get started here, and we'll begin by taking a look at the Rangers' own first-round pick and kind of where that could finish with those kind of prospects, and then we'll take a look and kind of talk about the Dallas and Carolina's first rounder after that. So starting off with the Rangers first, and honestly, with how kind of tight the Eastern Conference is still, and with the Rangers having, started to play a little better hockey as of late, you could say, picking up a couple OT losses to some pretty good teams there, of course, in the Las Vegas Golden Knights and Colorado Avalanche. You lose to Nathan McKinnon, beauty in overtime there, so that was tough, of course. So I think obviously this Rangers team could definitely be a wildcard team. They could finish in the top 3 in the Metro. They could possibly miss the playoffs or be a bottom 10 team. But ultimately, my kind of best guess for the range is something around that kind of 20 to kind of like 12 mark. Something around there is kind of my best guess. I think it's something around that kind of first round exit to sort of just missing the playoffs kind of range there. I'm not quite sure we're going to see this Rangers team kind of really fall back into the kind of bottom 10 in the league there, but I also am not quite sure this team is, for sure going to be able to make playoffs and go on a bit of a run to get out of the first round. So that's why I'm kind of guessing somewhere around that kind of 11, 12 to kind of 18, 19, 20 range. Something around there is kind of my best guess. And from all reports, it does seem like this draft class is going to be a very, very good one, as you've got the true kind of high-end talent there with the kind of true number 1, number 2, number 3, kind of top 5 true kind of overall pick talent players, but you've also seemingly got a bunch of other really great first-round caliber prospects as well. A lot of kind of higher-end prospects, some very talented players, so it does seem like even, at the kind of teens range there, maybe around that kind of, pick 13, 14, 15 range, even if the Rangers are around that kind of spot, or even pushing towards like 18, 19, 20 range, I think they're still going to be able to come away with a pretty good prospect. This class does seem to be quite loaded. Obviously, if the Rangers miss playoffs there and end up hitting the lottery, that would be incredible with how many true kind of high end prospects there are. But I think even in this kind of a range, missing the playoffs there by just a bit, you could end up getting a really good draft pick. Currently, there are, a lot of talented wingers, of course, and defensemen as well. So you're probably going to have a pretty good selection of players. There are a few centermen as well, but of course, definitely it is loaded with wingers. You've got guys like Adam Novotny, who I've gotten to watch a decent bit there. He plays for my favorite OHL team, the Peterborough Petes. Brendan Hoffman's former team, of course, and he is lighting things up. Had a bit of a slow start, but now he's starting to play some much better hockey where now he's got 29 games played, 35 points, 19 goals, 16 assists. He's been one of the best Peterborough Pete so far this season, and I definitely would say he's a prospect to keep an eye on. Got some decent size there at 6'1", and of course will be representing Team Czech Republic at the upcoming World Juniors, so keep an eye on this prospect. Then you've got a guy like Malte Gustafsson, a big 6'4", Swedish-born, left-handed defenseman, playing in the U20 Swedish League where he's got 9 points in 14 games played, but of course he's got that size there. Decent offensive game, solid puck mover, solid defensively, so definitely could be an interesting pickup there. And I think the Rangers are in a spot where, of course, they should definitely be just going for best player available. It doesn't have to be a center, it doesn't have to be a left or right winger, it doesn't have to be a left or right-handed defenseman. I think they should just go after the absolute kind of best player available, like they should pretty much always do with any pick, because any prospect you're taking, especially outside of the top kind of 3 or 5, there's really no shot at them making, the NHL kind of team right away. So always just taking the best kind of prospect possible, I think, is probably the right move pretty much. And if it is a defenseman, if it is a forward, a winger, a center, I don't really care. Just take the best one that they feel is available. And of course, we all know this Rangers team has had their struggles at developing, but at the end of the day, they're going to have to figure it out at some point there if they want to be a, real good team for a, long period of time. So hopefully they end up hitting on one of the two of these first round picks that they have here and end up actually, being able to develop these guys, because that has definitely been a pretty massive problem with many, many prospects in recent and past years. Next up here is one of my favorite prospects in the draft, and that is Caleb Malhotra. If he was available with the Rangers' first round pick, the first of the two, I definitely think he could be a home run pick. This is someone who definitely, I think, seems to have a lot of upside. He is the son of Manny Malhotra, a former NHLer, but he is 6 foot, a center prospect, playing for the Brantford Bulldogs in the OHL. He's committed to BU, Boston University, for next season, but currently has 27 games played, 37 points, 12 goals, 25 assists. He looked pretty good in that kind of prospects game there, the CHL versus the U.S. National Development Program. He looked pretty good in that game, but definitely seems to be a prospect that, has a pretty good kind of all-around game there, pretty solid defensively, definitely has that potential to be a pretty kind of high-end offensive centerman as well, though, and he does kind of have that kind of playoff style game there. He seems to play with a lot of energy, a lot of skill, he's got a lot of talent, but also plays with a bit of physicality, a bit of kind of toughness, a bit of that kind of playoff style game there, that kind of just competitiveness that you really want out of your players. It feels like he definitely has, so I think if he was available with the first of the two Rangers first rounders, I think it'd be a great pick, and he definitely could be a potential kind of top 8 even first round pick in this upcoming draft. And next up here, we've got for the Dallas Stars and Carolina Hurricanes first round pick, it being the better of the two, but of course also being top 10 protected, but that likely won't matter as both of these teams are going to more than likely finish in the top 3 of their respective divisions. Dallas will finish in the top 3, likely second place to Colorado in the Central, and then Carolina will probably figure out to finish somewhere in the top 3 of that Metropolitan Division. So the team is likely at very best going to end up seeing a kind of early 20s first rounder if one of them ends up being a first round exit, but if both of them made the second round or even further, you're looking at a kind of mid to late 20s pick at best. And if both of them did, of course, end up making the Stanley Cup Finals, which is a possibility, unfortunately, it would be pick number 31. So there is the possibility of that. At worst case, it's going to be pick 31 there. It cannot be 32 because it's the better of the 2 first rounders there. So if they both made the finals, it would be 31, of course. So that's the kind of worst case scenario there, it being picked 31. At best, you're looking at probably like, 20, 21 range, something around there kind of. But I think ultimately you're still going to be able to grab a pretty good prospect if the Rangers even do keep this pick, because they could definitely look to ship off one of the two here, but there are going to be some really talented prospects even around the kind of later kind of part of the first round here. You've got, a guy like, for example, William Hackinson, who I think could be a pretty interesting guy. He's got 22 games played, 2 points there, 2 assists in the SHL, the top Swedish league so far, as a left-handed defenseman playing for Luleå, where he is a 6'4" defenseman though, so he's got that good size there, of course. Obviously could be a pretty interesting pickup. Playing 22 games in your draft year as a defenseman, I think is a pretty good thing, of course. In the Swedish league, you've got a guy like Brooks Orgowski, who's committed to Michigan State University there, but he's someone who stands at about 6'6". He's a centerman playing for the Oshawa Generals, an American-born prospect, but playing in the OHL, committed to, obviously, Michigan State, where he so far has in the OHL 19 games played, though, 5 goals, 10 assists, 15 points, but we definitely know the Rangers love to go after their big, tall players, and then you've got a guy like maybe a Juho Pipparainen, if they wanted to go after a Finnish defenseman. He's playing in the Liga, the top Finnish league, where he's got 3 points there, 3 assists, no goals, 24 games played, 6'3", right-handed defenseman, could be a decent option. You've got a guy committed to BU playing for Victoriaville, 6'1", Igor Shilov, 28 games played, 35 points there. So this draft class is definitely looking quite good, and I think if the Rangers do end up keeping both their first rounders, which is a possibility. I mean, it might not happen as this team looks to maybe try and make some upgrades and try and get this team better for next season. But of course, this team also is in a spot where I think keeping these first rounders, just taking some good, talented prospects and kind of going forward, making some other trades, using some other assets, and just trying to kind of up this prospect pool, make it better, and try and put this team in a better spot going forward into the future, might be what's best for this team. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely don't forget to click that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content, as I do post a video about the New York Rangers every single day at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And also, definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on today's video. Do you want to see the Rangers trade away or keep these 2 first-rounders? What are your thoughts on some of these prospects? Do you have any ones that really kind of, catch your eye? Let me know your thoughts. I'll catch you next one, and bye.